SLAPP is a way for bullies to use the courtroom to try to silence voices they don't like.
SLAPP, that is an acronym at the heart of legislation proposed in Austin. Officially, this is Senate Bill 896 we're talking about, and it's sparking concerns about free speech.
Max Massey spoke with the First Amendment expert and the Better Business Bureau, serving the heart of Texas, just one of the organizations taking its concerns straight to lawmakers.
It gives a much bigger voice to bullies in the state of Texas.
Carrie Hurt, president and CEO of the Better Business Bureau, serving the heart of Texas, is one of the many people who went to Austin advocating against SB 896.
It's judicial harassment to try to shut you up.
You may be asking, what is the bill truly about?
If passed, SB 896 and its companion bill would end vital protections under the anti-SLAPP law here in Texas.
Laura Prather says the current anti-SLAPP law, it is vital for Texans.
It's one of the strongest First Amendment protections that Texas citizens have that they don't realize that they have.
It lets Texans give opinions or give reviews without the fear of costly lawsuits from wealthy corporations.
When a lawsuit is filed against someone for exercising their free speech rights, they can file a motion to dismiss under the Texas Citizens Participation Act, and that requires the court to look at the very beginning of the case as to whether or not there is merit in moving forward.
No merit, no harm to the Texas citizen.
If there is no merit, the case is dismissed.
So it seems like if this bill passes, we could lose our protections as Texas citizens, anyone who reviews a business, or as even journalists. So looking at this through the lens of Yelp, the way it works now is if you post a review on Yelp about a business that you didn't like their service, something just didn't seem right with it, it was a completely true and valid review. But if the business didn't agree with you, they could try to sue you. Now, normally, right now, as the law exists, that lawsuit could get thrown out if it doesn't have merit. You wouldn't have to pay the litigation costs, and you just move on with your life. However, it seems like if this bill passes, that you would have to fight that lawsuit, not only in one court, but possibly two different courts at the same time, and it could be costly litigation. Big businesses could use this financial stress to really have you do what they want.
People who are the subject of those investigative reports oftentimes sue because they don't like that wrongdoing exposed. And if they are forced to fight in the trial court and the appellate court at the same time, it will become cost prohibitive to do investigative reporting in the state of Texas. And then everyone loses.
With the potential consequences of Senate Bill 896 becoming increasingly evident, both Prather and Hurt call on Texans to take their concerns to the representatives.
They need to contact their senators and have their senators vote against House Bill 3129. It needs to be continued phone calls and emails to both their senators and to their representatives to vote against Senate Bill 896.
And this looks like something both sides are getting behind, with right and left-leaning organizations going to the Capitol. All of this on top of the unintended consequences on the already overburdened Texas court system. In fact, Wallace Jefferson, former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Texas, writing a letter where he stated the bill in part would create a two-tier system in which parties in certain instances would be forced to litigate their cases simultaneously at the trial and appellate courts, which will cause significant perils for both litigants and the courts. The fear is that if it passes, this bill would hinder the ability to keep big businesses accountable. Groups and regular Texans would be financially pressured into submission.
The information's factual. We only report on what information we do have. However, without the protection of the anti-SLAPP law, we could potentially be faced with making a decision not to report on companies.
Max Massey, KSAT 12 News.
We have been reaching out to Congressman Jeff Leach's office and Senator Brian Hughes's offices via email and phone calls, trying to get interviews on why they authored and support the bills. We haven't heard back. Now, it's important to note that Graham Media, KSAT's parent company, along with several media groups, have signed a letter against the SLAPP bill.